保护委员会副主任委员袁四先生，全国人大内务司法委员会委员郑功成先生，全国人大常委会预算工作委员会副主任刘修文先生，全国人大常委会办公厅秘书局巡视员傅文杰先生，围绕这一主题回答大家的提问。好，现在开始提问。好，请中区第3排靠右侧的第3位穿白色西服的那位记者。
谢谢主持人把第一个提问机会给到了我，我是新华网记者。我的这个问题是提给尹中清先生的。有的企业反映关闭小钢铁、小煤窑，导致民间投资血本无归，下岗职工流离失所，这是供给侧结构性改革的必然成本吗？去年为配合全国人大常委会听取审议国务院关于推进供给侧结构性改革、加快制造业转型升级工作情况的报告，全国人大财经委组织开展了专题调研。请问调研情况如何？取得了哪些成果呢？谢谢。
Xinhua News Agency, my question is for Mr. Ying. Some complain that the shutting down of small steel mills and coal mines has made private investors lose their money and workers lose their jobs. Is such an unavoidable cost of supply-side structural reform? And last year, at the NPC Standing Committee heard and deliberated on the report of the State Council on advancing supply-side structural reform and accelerating the transformation and upgrading of the manufacturing industry. The Economic and Financial Affairs Committee organized a special research to follow up. Can you give us an overview of the research and what are the outcomes?
好，谢谢你的问题。你的问题挺尖锐的啊。
Thank you for your question. It's a very good question. It's hard to answer, but it's also important. We know that the supply side structural reform has undergone with the direction of the CPC Central Committee with Xi Jinping at the core to encounter the downside of the economic development. It's also the core of the current Chinese economic reform. Just now you have mentioned several phenomena. These are the problems that we can encounter during the application of the supply-side structural reform, especially when we are doing the 3 reductions and 1 subsidy in certain areas. Actually, this supply-side structural reform are not limited to this application of the 3 reductions and 1 subsidy. According to the direction of the Standing Committee of NPC, we have listened to the suggestions of the State Council to accelerate the restructuring of the industries. The aim is to better facilitate the supply-side structural reform in the manufacturing industry and to apply the reductions and the subsidy policies. In order to apply this work, we have carried out a research. I was the director of the group. We visited Shanghai, Hubei, Chongqing, Hunan, Shandong, Tianjin, and Zhejiang. In total, 7 provinces and municipalities. We have visited more than 100 factories. It's the first time for me to hear this kind of problem that you have mentioned just now. On the basis of the research, we have drafted a report for the deliberation of the NPC. This has attracted a lot of attention, and finally, this report, together with the opinions of the NPC, were submitted to the State Council. It has helped to accelerate the departments, including the State Council, to carry on with this supply-side structural reform. This report has suggested 6 opinions. Among the 6, there may be some enlightenments for your questions. For example, first, how can we better understand the relationship between the reform and the manufacturing industry? With the development of the big data, cloud computing, and the IoT, manufacturing industry have a more diverse forms and also a higher value added. While developing the service industry and manufacturing industry, we should accelerate the restructuring of the industry, and in the whole global scale, we can push it into a higher level. Second, how to better handle the relationship between the government and the market. According to the report, currently during the development of the manufacturing industry, the government has not very well played its role. Sometimes it has intervened too much. There has been too much administrative interaction. Just now you have mentioned some problems linked to the inappropriate actions of the local government, especially when they were dealing with the phasing out of the unnecessary productivity. They were using tough measures, but sometimes they ignore to profit from the market force to solve this problem of the surplus of the production capacity. And they ignored to use the market to deal with the enterprises and employee replacement issues. So in this regard, when we are doing this supply-side structural reform, we should have more precise monetary policy, financial policy, industrial policy, scientific reasoning, and scientific plans. We should better handle the relations between the government and the market. We should have a clear mind what are exactly the responsibilities of the government. In those places that we cannot have governmental interference, then we should use the market. When we are improving the industrial policy, we can play a better role with the market. Thirdly, we should have a better understanding on the relationship between the manufacturing and the financing industry. In recent years, in China's economic development, we have encountered some difficulties. The real economy and the financing sector are not developing in a coordinated way. Sometimes they are detached one from another. If we want to have a more sound development, then we should combine the two more closely. The manufacturing should be more closely linked to the financing sector, and we should make better use of the financing sector to support the development of the manufacturing. Fourthly, we should have a better understanding of the relations between the traditional industries and emerging industries. During our research, we should not have the simple idea that some intermediate sectors are unnecessary. When we are doing the restructuring, we should have a better management of the relations between the traditional ones and the emerging ones. We should be prudent in dealing with the capacity in stockage, and we should not think that the traditional ones are unnecessary ones or outdated ones. Actually, many traditional industries, they are still the pillars for our economic development. And through technological restructuring, they can also have their own update. And thus, we can have a more harmonious relations between the reformed traditional sectors and the emerging sectors. Fifthly, we should better deal with the relations between the SMEs and the bigger enterprises. In China, most of the big enterprises are state-owned, and usually the SMEs, they are private enterprises. When we are doing the reform, it doesn't mean that we should only keep the state-owned enterprises and to contain the development of those SMEs. Actually, we'd like to encourage the development of all different kinds of enterprises, whether they are state-owned or private, whether they are Chinese ones or foreign ones. So when we are doing the manufacturing restructuring, we should optimize the enterprises so that to optimize the whole structure of the sector. In the past, we only paid attention to the development of the large-scale enterprises, and today we should also engage those smaller enterprises, especially the micro enterprises, the micro and small enterprises, and those private enterprises. Like this, the whole sector would be more balanced in this structure. Finally, the sixth point, we should pay more attention to the relations between the domestic market and the international market. During our research, we found out that in recent years, in some local areas, especially the coastal areas, they have been very open in attracting the foreign investors, but the results were not very satisfactory. When applying the Belt and Road Initiative, we should find a solution to that problem. For example, for the cloth manufacturing and other sectors, today a lot of these factories have moved to other Southeast and Asian countries. In this case, we should make better use of the two different markets at home and abroad, and to better job at attracting foreign investors and also do the investment overseas and have a better guidance to the enterprises to encourage them to go out of the country to invest in other countries' certain sectors. We are still in want of the capital and investment. For the development of the sector, according to the report, we stress the importance of the utilization of the markets at home and abroad and resources in China and in the global market. Thank you.
谢谢主持人。我是团结报团结网记者。这个问题是提给吴恒副主任委员的。我们注意到执法检查工作是本届全国人大常委会工作的突出亮点，也是咱们教科文卫委员会工作的突出亮点。请问，自2015年职业教育法执法检查后，针对该法，全国人大常委会又开展了哪些后续的工作？谢谢。
团结报 My question is for Mr. Wu. The NPC Standing Committee and the Education, Science, Culture and Public Health Committee have done a good job in law enforcement inspection. In 2015, you carried out an inspection into the enforcement of the vocational education law. So can you talk about the follow-up work in this regard?
很高兴啊，这位记者关注各届全国人大常委会的。
Thank you for your attention to the law enforcement inspection of our NPC. And this is a very important task of NPC. For the past 5 years, the NPC has done 7 different inspections relating to vocational education, and that's 5 years' time. You have mentioned, in particularly relating to vocational education inspection. This is what we think the most important inspection of our inspection of NPC, and it has done set a lot of records. We all know that vocational education is an important course for the country. And according to President Xi Jinping, this is one of the important channels for our citizens to realize their dream. Vocational education is also a good tool for us to alleviate poverty for poverty-stricken families, if their children can receive vocational education, this will be a very good thing, not only for himself, but also for his family, his community as well. The third point is that we will move from manufactured, made in China to China make, and we are going to need more technicians in this regard. So this is also another important aspect of vocational education. Since the 5th session of the 12th NPC, we have done a lot of investigations in terms of the law enforcement of vocational education. Some of the agencies have done a survey. We have set many records. The first is that the chairman, Zhang Dejiang, set the focal points of the inspection himself. We know that vocational education involves a lot of different aspects, and so is the law of vocational education. So how can we find out the focal points and the priorities within a short time? Chairman Zhang Dejiang picked the priorities himself, and this is the first point that I'd like to make. And the second is that Chairman Zhang Dejiang led the inspection team himself, and he reported the inspection results himself to the NPC, and he also organized himself some dedicated inquiries. These inquiries are not simply question and answer sessions. He combined the joint matters and concerns of the Q&A, and Chairman Zhang Dejiang also directed a press conference that involves media from home and abroad, and also some officials from different parts of the government organs. You have mentioned that during the inspection of vocational education, after the deliberation of the Standing Committee of NPC, State Council has made a feedback to the NPC Standing Committee. And after that, the Education, Science, Culture, and Public Health Committee continued to follow up with the inspections. And I would like to give you a small example here. There was a team led by our Vice Chairman Ali Gen that visited Xinjiang Autonomous Region. We found out that the local government paid a lot of attention to vocational education. Many students attended vocational schools. But there was one concern rose from our team. That is, in the local areas, there was no matching industries. So how would the students continue with their skills after graduation? And in the year 2017, we find a proper solution to this question. In some of the enterprises in the northern part of Xinjiang, they recruited some of the graduates from the vocational schools in the southern part of the Xinjiang Autonomous Region. And these graduates, after getting professional trained at their vocational schools, they find proper jobs and they have a decent earning to help with their families. So from this small example, we find out the importance of vocational education. And this also shows the law enforcement inspection done by NPC, and also a very good outcome of our inspection.
CGTN 记者提问，我的这个问题呢是提给这个预算工委的刘修文副主任的。刘主任，我们都知道哈，这个审查批准预算和监督预算执行是宪法和法律赋予全国各级人大以及其常委会的一项重要职能。那么我们注意到，在今年的全国人大会的前夕呢，中共中央办公厅专门发布了关于人大预算审查、监督重点项支出预算和政策拓展的相关指导意见。那么我们也注意到，人民日报在3月7号不但刊登了全文，还在3月9号进行了深入的解读。那么我想请问刘主任的是，我们出台这样一项重大改革措施的主要内容和具体要求是什么？那么下一步的具体的执行措施又有哪些？谢谢。
CGTN, my question is for Mr. Liu. People's Congresses and their standing committees exercise the power to review and adopt budget and supervise the implementation of budget under the Constitution and laws. Before this NPC session, the General Office of the CPC Central Committee issued the guiding opinion on focusing on expenditure budget and policy in NPC budgetary review. Its full text and an in-depth analysis can be found on People's Daily on its March the 7th and March the 9th editions. Can you brief us about the overall requirement and substance of this major reform? What are the specific measures to carry out this major reform?
谢谢这位记者朋友对这份刚刚出炉的中央重要改革举措的关注，因为实施人大。
Thank you for your concern and attention to this newly issued policy. The focus of the review of the budget and final account is one of the important link of implementing the guidelines of the Central Committee of CPC's requirement on NPC. It is very meaningful. The measures and substances of this policy is very substantial. And due to time reasons, I can only give you a brief answer. There are 6 aspects in terms of the requirements. The first is to upholding the leadership of the CPC Central Committee, better implements the CPC Central Committee's policies and guidelines to make the budget arrangements better executed during the government work. And the second is to sticking to the central work of the government and the CPC Central Committee to make the budget and policies serve the central work of the party and the government. The third is to center around the people, with people at the center. We will stick to the basic principle that improving people's well-being. The fourth is to further improve the investigation of law enforcement relating to budget and final accounts revision. The fifth is to be question-oriented and find a long-term mechanism to address the problems and to solve the problems that have been the focus of ordinary citizens. The sixth aspect is to make further research and survey to make the reform effective. And there are 5 aspects. The first is the including the fiscal financial payment transfer and the debt of the governments. And we will also intensify the supervision of the taxation to fend off the empty incremental of the taxes. And the People's Daily have done a thorough publication around this topic, so I will not go into detail on this.
谢谢主持人，我是现代快报的记者。我这个问题是指给环资委副主任委员袁司的。我们注意到，去年全国人大常委会开展了固体废物污染环境防治法实施情况执法检查。请问这次检查有哪些特点？我们又提出了哪些具有针对性的建议？谢谢。
More than express, my question is for Mr. Yuan. Last year, the NPC Standing Committee inspected the enforcement of the law on the prevention and control of environment pollution caused by solid wastes. What are the features of this inspection and what are the targeted suggestions?
谢谢您的问题。去年是第12届全国人大常委会
Thank you for the question.
最后一年，但是在执法检查上没有丝毫的放松。
Last year was the final year of the 12th NPC, but we didn't ease our efforts.
环境防治法
And on the contrary, we have done even more efforts into investigating into the law enforcement prevention control of solid waste.
土壤污染
Solid waste,
防治是密切相关。
the protection and control of solid waste is closely related to the prevention and control of air and water pollution.
土壤里的水里，
Without proper dealing, the solid waste will
环境保护工作中
further pollute our air,
重要一
our water,
重要的
and our
民
earth.
生工程和
So this is an important link of our environmental protection,
执法检查应
and
该
it also relates closely to the well-being of our
把它
people.
归纳为
Relating to the features of the inspection, there are 4 outstanding features.
标
First is big effort
重点
and
出击呢
target-oriented, addressing both symptoms and root causes.
非常的广。张德江委员长
The first,
次担任组长，
we have
4位
covered a lot of areas in this inspection, with the chairman
专门委员会
Zhang Dejiang as the director himself, and the four vice chairmen as the deputy directors of the inspection. The whole process lasted 5 months, covered 31 provinces and municipalities. The second feature is
开放就是
target-oriented.
这次执法检
We are not actually an executive government body, but we
检查的
offer
内容及
suggestions to address these problems.
分类，畜禽养殖废
The
弃
key
危险废物监管，禁
contents of our inspection, including addressing the cause of the solid waste and
高度关注
properly deal with the
普遍关心的重点
solid waste. And all these questions are concerns by our ordinary people and also the central government. Here I would like to give you an example, where I was carrying out an inspection in one local area. Our investigation team go to the localities ourselves, and we find out many dangerous wastes and polluting waters. And it was transferred into a neighboring province for burying, and it has caused huge damage to local ecosystem. One of our deputy leader, the vice chairman of NPC, addressed this problem himself, and he said we must deal properly these solid waste that has been transferred from neighboring provinces and among others.
And we should also give the report on the results of the treatment. After getting back to the capital, we heard the news that the local authorities have already taken actions, and relative provincial authorities are also serious about this issue. Last time, I said the same thing, that for the NPC, we should be strict in our work. when it's necessary to cut our arm to save the body, then we will do it. And then we should also take care of the different forms of the treatment of the problem. On the one hand, we collect opinions and information through different channels and also media channels. And we also do the sample collecting during the in-field visits. And we go to the front line to inspect the law enforcement quality from a more superficial way into a more in-depth way. And then with the symptoms and the root cause, we will treat with all of them. During the inspection, we also studied thoroughly the existing problems with this solid waste prevention and control law. And we are visioning the future application for this law in order to set a better foundation for the future law enforcement. Just now, my colleague has also said that we have made a lot of records. For example, this visit led by Chairman Zhang Dejiang. However, in regard of this solid waste law, it's Chairman Zhang Dejiang who had made a report during one conference. He has pointed out 9 major issues with 9 related suggestions and also 6 major points. Just now, you have asked for some suggestions. So here, I'd like to give you a very brief introduction on those 9 suggestions. I will be very brief due to the time limit. First, we will make more advertisements on the policies. Second, make more coordinated action. Third, the social co-governance between the government and enterprises and society. Fourth, strengthen the development, the dealing with the dangerous solid. 5, better work in environmental treatment. 6, treatment with the industrial waste. 7, a better system for the treatment. 8, the treatment with the particles. And 9, the improvement of the legal system. In total, 9 suggestions. In order to make the law enforcement more effective, the Standing Committee has also carried out an inquiry led by the Chairman Zhang Dejiang. This special inquiry has also set a record. It's after the opening of the 19th CPC Congress. It's the first special inquiry that we have carried out. So just now we have mentioned 4 characteristics and 9 suggestions. I think that I may have answered to your question. All these information and the actions and inquiries related to the solid waste prevention control law are the measures that we have taken after the 19th CPC Congress, and they are also important ways to protect the environment and improve the ecosystem quality. And it's also a very good occasion here to make some advertisement and promotion of this law.
央视新闻移动网记者提问，我的这个问题是提给我们内司委的郑工程委员的。网络安全呢，一直都是社会公众广泛关注的问题。那么全国人大常委会为什么在网络安全法实施的当年就开展执法检查？那么在执法检查的过程当中，又有哪些新的举措？谢谢。
CCTV, my question is for Mr. Zheng. Cybersecurity is a matter of great interest to the public. We noticed that the NPC Standing Committee launched inspection on the enforcement of the cybersecurity law the same year as it came into effect. Can you talk about the reason and what are the new approaches adopted in this inspection?
好，谢谢你的提问。我们已经生活在这个互联网的时代啊。
Thank you for your question. We are living in this time of internet, and cybersecurity has become a real question that has attracted a lot of attention because it's closely linked to the security of the country and also personal interests. People can understand today that without cybersecurity, we cannot have a safe country, nor can we have the security of any organization. Since we can recognize the importance of the cybersecurity, the NPC has paid a lot of attention to this issue. We have adopted the decision to draft the cybersecurity law in 2017. In this context, has first elaborated the law, and then we have carried out the inspection on the law enforcement for the cybersecurity. This inspection has led by my department. According to our traditional practices, we will first listen to the reports of several departments, and then with the officials from our department, we go to different provinces to work with local authorities. And for the first time, we have tried to invite a third party to join our inspection. All these measures are proven effective. Why we have invited the third party participation? Because cyber issues, they are very complicated for us. Only with the traditional practices, we can never accomplish this job, because we need those third party, especially the scientific institutions, to make the scientific reasoning and help to improve the correctness and efficiency of our work. And then for the inspected work units, we have carried out the inspection without their knowing. We find out that in some work units, there are some prominent problems. For example, there are some loopholes with their net or with their websites. And some bad guys can even make use of the loopholes of their website to change the information and even harm the benefits of the work unit and the individuals related. We have also cooperated with the press to do an investigation on the opinion of the people. We have collected information from more than 10,000 people coming from 31 different provinces and municipalities. The participation of the third parties have made our work better than before and more professional. Within one work unit, when they are doing the report, they will talk about the actions that they are going to take in the future, but they will not be aware to check the loopholes in their websites. Those are the future risks. With the traditional ways of inspection, we can hardly find out those loopholes and problems. With this creative way that we have taken, we are more effective in our work. And then with the participation of the third party, our inspection work has become more objective. Many work units usually will stress how much attention they have attached to the cybersecurity issue in their report. But finally, we find out that 55% of the invested people are not that aware of the importance of the cybersecurity. And in even some places, the leader of the local authorities has never heard of this term. And according to the investigation, the law enforcement departments have taken actions to fight against the cybersecurity issues, but the satisfaction rate is not that high. This means that we should still improve the quality of our work. All those creative measures are proven effective. Thank you.
谢谢主持人，我是来自中新社和中新网的记者。那么有个问题呢，想提问刘修文副主任。那么看好政府的钱袋子啊，是我们人大代表的一个法定的职责。但是呢，这2天在采访的过程中，我们也注意到有一些代表呢，可能反映啊，咱们这个预算的这个草案呢是越来越厚，并且呢，这个预算的编制呢，也是有一些晦涩。或者说，感觉有一些地方呢看得不是太懂。那么这一块呢，也是一个老问题，也是一个新问题。那么您看，产生这个问题的原因到底是什么？那么站在我们工作的角度，这个预算编制啊，还可以做哪些优化？如何从根本上解决这个问题？谢谢。
China Review News. My question is for Mr. Liu. To keep the people's wallet in good hand is an important task of the NPC. However, during our interview with some deputies, they told us that they find the draft budget too thick and too hard to read. As a result, they are not very keen to review the budget. Mr. Liu, what do you think are the reasons, and how to improve the budgeting work to fundamentally address these problems?
谢谢记者朋友对这个问题的关注，因为今年我也是第一次当选为全国人大代表，在代表团的那个审议过程中间啊。
This is the first time for me to be elected as the NPC deputy. During the review, I was asked a lot of times this question. In a general view, actually, we have a few problems with the reading of the budget, but this problem still exists. Personally, I think that the reasons for that is related to the professionalism of the draft budget. Because the draft budget is linked to a lot of sectors. There are a lot of data, projects, items, and a lot of professional terminologies inside. If you are not in the sector, you may encounter some difficulty in reading it. So how can we solve the problem? So we can consider to make the draft budget more transparent. It's hard to realize. But to achieve the goal, we can still make efforts in the following ways. First, we should ask the State Council and relevant departments to make the draft budget more concrete according to the Article number 16, number 75 of the Constitution. And secondly, we should demand the State Council to carry on with the reform of the budgeting work, especially according to the Article number 17 of the Law on Budgeting. For the elaboration and execution of the budget, there should be checks and balances. This is a demand since the 16th CPC Congress. Thirdly, personally, I think I have this brochure of the interpretation of the government budget. We should have better quality of this kind of publications. We use easy words and simple tables to show people the draft budget.
So the brochure should show the highlights and the focuses of the draft budget so that the general public can have a better understanding. The fourth aspect is to better improve ourselves in terms of manpower and the improvement of our relevant bodies and also the skills of our deputies. I think all these are areas that we can work on.
我想提问傅文杰先生，12届全国人大常委会在监督工作体制机制的完善上做了哪些工作，取得了什么样的效果？谢谢。
大河报 My question is for Mr. Fu. What is the work of the 12th NPC Standing Committee in improving the institutions and mechanisms of supervision, and what about the progress?
这个跟大河报有缘啊，去年出差的时候看去大河报参观过，这个很高兴问到这个。
Well, actually, I visited your institution last year, so I'm very glad to take your question. To improve the institutions of the supervision is a long-term task that we have been working on. The 12th NPC for the past 5 years have made great efforts and registered good results in terms of improving the systems of and mechanisms of supervision, and I would like to give you some of the important mechanisms here. For improving the capacity of the county-level NPC, we have stipulated a mechanism. On the other hand, to strengthening the deliberation work of the NPC on chief matters, we also stipulated a regulation. In terms of the communication work between the National People's Congress and local level NPC, we also have a regulation in this. Also, we also have made things mentioned by Director Liu on the budget making and other related regulations. We have intensified our follow-up inspections and problem-solving capacities. Also, for dedicated inquiries, we also improved our work and make a special regulation in this. All these are some of the works we have done in improving our mechanisms of the NPC. This has also represented the feature of keeping up with the tide of NPC. Some other directors also mentioned the inspections of NPC. Chairman Zhang Dejiang have concluded the inspection into NPC into 6 areas, including reporting, surveying, research, and feedback. And this is a closed chain. Using these mechanisms, we have effectively facilitated the inspection work of NPC. What will be the results of perfecting our supervision mechanisms? Every and each regulation that I mentioned, for example, the dedicated inquiry, many of the standing committee of the NPC, standing committee of NPC, and also many officials from government will convene to discuss these deliberated inquiries and reach results that will work as the foundation for the State Council. The mechanism and the systems is actually the highway for the government administration. With such highways, we can have better performed and highly effective government administration. And only in this way we can be more effective and better performing.
谢谢主持人，我是中国网的记者，我的问题提给袁思先生。北京这2天发布了
空气重污染橙色预警，并且预计重污染天气将持续到14号。然后大家对于雾霾又来了，感觉都不是太满意。我们都知道，环境空气质量是老百姓最关注的环境问题。中共19大报告中也强调要打赢蓝天保卫战。请问全国人大常委会和环资委对此有什么样的安排和努力？谢谢。
China.com.cn. My question is for Mr. Yuan. Recently, Beijing issued an orange alert for air pollution, and such smoke will not cease until March the 14th. So many people say that smoke is coming back. We know that air quality is on top of the mind of the people, and the report to the 19th CPC National Congress highlighted the campaign to make our blue sky coming back again. So my question is, can you talk about the measures and arrangements of the Environment Protection and Resources Conservation Committee in this regard?
谢谢你的提问。一提起雾霾呢，心情就不美。
Thank you for your question. Speaking of smog, we can be very heavy-hearted. Especially in the recent 2 days, we have experienced another round of smog in Beijing. The Standing Committee of NPC and also the Environment Protection and Resources Convention Committee, we share the same mood with you. And this is our top concern. Blue sky is the fundamental resource that we can share. And we breathe the same air. We can buy bottled waters for healthy drinking, but air is an inevitable resource that everybody has to breathe in. The prevention and control of air pollution has been the priority of our work at our committee and the Standing Committee of NPC. Related to the efforts and measures we have done and the future arrangements, we have two aspects of efforts. The first is legislature. We have revised the environmental protection law. We also revised the law on prevention and control of air pollution. On the other hand, we have done a lot of supervision work. Due to the theme of today's press conference, I will mainly focus on the supervision work we have done. I have participated in the press conference for several years. This is the 4th year, actually, but the air pollution matter is actually a topic that is worthwhile, that worth discussion every year. And we have done a lot of work focusing on the some severe polluting areas such as Beijing, Tianjin, and the Hebei province. For the past 5 years, we have done a lot of work, such as inspections and deliberate inquiries, and we revised our regulations and laws. The Standing Committee and the Environment Committee one of the important role of the committee and NPC is that we constantly sticking to this air polluting problem. The root cause of air polluting in Beijing, Tianjin, and the Hebei area is our focal point for the past 5 years. We stick to this problem until we have achieved some good results and the blue sky is coming back. In 2003, the first year of the 12th MPC, we organized a series of investigations centering on the topic of air pollution. I remember that I took a high-speed train from Beijing to the capital of Hebei, the city of Shijiazhuang. I had a very bad experience because the smog is all over. The index of air quality is over 200. So that investigation has made some guidelines and claims on the prevention and the control of the air pollution in Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei areas, and has worked as a foundation for the government work. In the year 2014, I paid another visit around the area of Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei province. And the investigation team pointed out that the air pollution in China was still serious, and these advices was implemented in the revision of the law of prevention and control of air pollution. In 2015, we made another visit there. On the report of the implementation of air pollution prevention law, we heard the feedback report of the State Council. This was the first time that the Standing Committee heard the State Council's feedback report on air pollution. It is a symbol and demonstration of our Standing Committee of NPC's new trial and methods on tightening the control of air pollution. In 2016, we made another visit, and we make the implementation of the air pollution prevention law as the focal point. To what extent did the law was enforced? Last year, after the 2 sessions, we had another visit in Beijing and some other cities in Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei provinces. With the topic of the relationship between heating in North China and air pollution, we have done a lot of research and survey. This is also important content of the work reports of the government. For 5 consecutive years, we have strengthened the efforts of investigation and inspection in Beijing, Tianjin areas relating to the air pollution. And these are the work we have done. All these investigations that I participated, I have some thoughts regarding this. It is hard to say what the basic feature of these visits. Some are investigation and the others are inspection. Usually the teams are led by our vice chairmen. The local authorities could be very honest, and they told us all the truth and all the problems. We told the local authorities that if you do not address the problems, well, we will revisit you next year.
I have given the same example during last year's press conference. So the check, the supervision, they are all intertwined. So why are we talking about this Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei province? Once you open up the map of the air pollution and the smog, you will find the blackest points are located in this belt area. Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei consists of the most important parts of the battle. If we can succeed with this area, then there will be no reason why we cannot do a good job with other parts of the country. So we should seize this area as the most prominent problem. We should stick to it. It's important to stick to one point at the beginning rather than doing something here and something elsewhere. You are asking for the following up actions. Yesterday, Chairman Zhang Dejiang has made suggestions to the work in 2018. In this new year, we will continue the check and inspection on the law enforcement as well as the special inquiries on the law enforcement concerning the air quality and pollution control. We should continue with this policy of sticking to one problem and continue with the following up supervision to win the battle, which is so difficult. In order to win the battle, we should be persistent and continue with the efforts. And you are welcome, the friends of the press, to continue to keep an eye on our work. Thank you.
我的这个问题是提给尹中清先生的。请问，过去5年在发展中保障和改善民生方面，全国人大财经委做了哪些工作？谢谢。
National Business Daily. My question is for Mr. Ying. What did the Financial and Economic Affairs Committee do in the last 5 years in terms of improving the livelihood of the people?
谢谢你的提问。
Thank you for your question. In our committee, we are responsible for the economic development and also for the supervision on the guarantee of people's livelihood. In our committee, we are responsible for the supervision of the economic work, and in that, we can find an important part of the work of the party and the government. It's also one channel to realize the responsibility of the NPC over the past 5 years. To guarantee people's livelihood, we have done 5 things. First of all, the inspection of the execution of the plans, especially the execution of the 12th 5-year plan and the elaboration and the approval and preliminary check of the 13th 5-year plan. We will not only check on the economic progress, but also on the livelihood for the people. Second is the audit, budget audit supervision. Over the 5 years, every year we have done this inspection and check on the budget audit. We checked and supervised on the execution of the budget plans. Third, we supervised on the economic progress. Each year on January, July, and October, we organized the conference to analyze the economic performance. We worked together with the colleagues from the State Council to analyze the economic growth quality, to find solutions to the problems, and to supervise on the performance of the economic sector. And fourth, supervision on special issues. In recent years, we have studied importance on fight against financial risk, the government's debts, free trade loans, the development of the West, safe production, reform of the state-owned capital, coordination of the rural and urban areas, social securities, etc. Especially over the past 5 years, our committee has worked a lot on the social security system. We have followed up the evolution of this area. We have also contacted some departments under the State Council to co-elaborate the report. The fifth, the supervision on the law enforcement. Just like the other committees, we have, for example, carried out the supervision on the law enforcement related to people's livelihood. After the adoption of the law on tourism, we have carried out an inspection. The tariffs with the tourist groups, for example, we have also checked on the law enforcement on the food safety, the protection of the interests of the consumers, the quality of the products, etc. In this regard, we can better discover problems in the law enforcement of all those areas and make sure that all those laws are applied in a sufficient and correct way. We are always problem-oriented, and we are also glad to improve our methods of work. We will make improvements in 4 areas. First of all, we will act according to the laws and regulations. We will always follow the procedure. We have the courage to supervise, and we are not afraid to go against some people's will. We are willing to make more constructive advices and to fully play our role. Secondly, NPC, as well as with the other departments, share the same responsibilities, although they have different functions. The NPC will not fight against the other departments. Our final objective is to work with them, to supervise on different areas, and to help to overcome problems. During the process of supervision, we'd like to give support. And when giving support, we are also enforcing the supervision. Thirdly, a precise supervision. Our committee has a large coverage in our work. For example, economic development, economic growth. It covers a lot of areas. However, we should always seek the key points in our work. Especially for those prominent questions among the people, we should keep an eye on it and make quick answers and advices. We should urge a quick application and enforcement of the laws related with financial and economic affairs and have a better treatment with the budget application. Fourth, an effective supervision. Effectiveness is also an eternal demand for our committee. We will continue to work hard to improve the effectiveness of the supervision. As mentioned by Mr. Yuan just now, we should make the supervision role of NPC more effective and more strict. This is the final goal of the NPC, so that we can respond to the expectations of the CPC and the Chinese people.
做主加强人大监督，很重要的任务就是要管好人民的钱袋子，就是要加强人大对政府全口径预算决算的审查和监督。 那我们了解到，12届全国人大常委会在加强全口径审查、全过程监督以及预算联网监督等方面做了大量的工作，全面开创了人大预算决算审查监督和国有资产监督的新局面。那么想请问您，全国人大常委会和预算工委这5年，在创新预算决算审查监督机制等方面，具体开展了哪些工作，取得了哪些重大的成绩呢？谢谢您。
BTime.com. My question is for Mr. Liu. The important part of the NPC supervision is the review of government budget and the final accounts. The Standing Committee of the 12th NPC has done a great deal of job in enhancing full covered review, whole process monitoring, and online supervision, opening new grounds in the supervision of budget, final accounts, and state-owned assets. Mr. Liu, can you give us an overview of the important work and progress of the NPC Standing Committee and the Budgetary Affairs Commission in the last 5 years in terms of developing new mechanisms of review and supervision of budget and final accounts?
谢谢记者朋友对我们这个预算审查监督的高度关注，特别是谢谢媒体朋友啊，像张德江委员长他报告。
Thank you for your attention to our work. And also, I'd like to thank all the friends of the press for your admiration of the work of our committee and on the report by Chairman Zhang Dejiang. With the correct direction of the CPC Central Committee with Xi Jinping at the core, our commission has seriously accomplished the work on the supervision and the reform on the budget and the settlements under the guidance of the CPC. We have organized 4 times conferences and has given clear guidelines. The CPC Central Committee has also issued 3 important documents to guide our work. Just now, I have mentioned another directory document, and in recent years, our mechanism of the supervision and review of the budget and the settlements has become more and more improved. The efficiency of our work has also improved. I'd like to give you a brief introduction. There are 7 different aspects. First, in 2014, we have revised the law related to budget. We have added 26 articles. At the same time, we have elaborated 3 more laws. For example, the laws on the environmental taxes. So the system has been more completed. Second, in 2015, we have established a new mechanism under which we submit the budget to the NPC, and we have corrected the past problems. Thirdly, 2016, we have set up another mechanism of information collection and opinions collection before the submission of the budget to the NPC. This is a channel to respond to the expectations of the people. Fourthly, in 2017, we set up an online budget supervision. So the NPC and the local People's Progress can have their work connected online. So at municipal level and district level, as well as the central level, everything can be connected and be seen in a transparent way. Fifth, each year, we reported to the NPC the institutions on the management of the government, a state-owned capital, and also the full covered budget in a very transparent way. This is a measure to benefit the people.
On March the 3rd, we have passed the guidelines, opinions on the implementation of the budgets and financial accounts. The seventh aspect is we intensified the inquiries on some major fiscal and taxation matters, such as the inquiries and the supervisions on the taxations on education and so on. In the following steps, we will work upholding the spirit of the CPC standing Central Committee, and we will supervise governments at all local levels to use better their budgets.
记者，我的问题是提给内司委的政委员的。那当前呢，其实我国已经进入了一个老龄化社会。那请问全国人大将如何的积极应对人口老龄化，以及在具体的监督工作中来提升监督实效？谢谢。
China Radio International. My question is for Mr. Zheng. China is now entering the aging society. What will the NPC do in an active response to population aging, and how to make supervision more effective in this regard?
好，谢谢你的提问。人口老龄化应该是举国上下都高度关注。
Thank you for the question. Aging population is a nationwide social problem. And we have our own features as an aging society. We have fast speed and also some empty nest phenomenon, small household, and so on. I have some data to share with you. In 1999, and only 10% of our total population is aged over 60. By 2017, the proportion has rose to 17.3%. People over 65 took up only 7% in 2000. And by the end of last year, the proportion is 11.4%. This is a really fast speed and is unprecedented in the whole world. By the end of 2017, and there are 240 million people that is over 65 years old. And this is the first year that we have had a newly added of 10 million people in 1 year of aging over 60 years old. And this is actually a very unique phenomenon in the whole world. We have stick to the priority of safeguarding the livelihood of elderly people. From 2005 to 2017, we have done 3 years of supervision in 3 consecutive years. To provide better social security for elderly person is one of the important items of our 13th five-year plan. We have investigated in 3 different provinces. We invited experts and scholars, and also we took into consideration the social security for elderly people from advanced developed countries such as Japan and Italy. We proposed to accelerating the service for senior citizens into the 13th five-year plan to ensure social services for these senior citizens, to promote the rural areas in advancing its social services for elderly people. In 2015, the Standing Committee carried out a supervision on the law enforcement of the law on protection of elderly people. We also entrusted the other 25 provincial NPC to investigate into the law enforcement of the law of protection the elderly citizens' rights. And these include the situation of many different aspects, such as the involvement of elderly people participating in the social activities. And all these feedbacks from the investigations was submitted to the State Council. At the 22nd meeting of the 12th NPC, we have done a feedback conference on the investigation on and supervision on the protection of rights, the rights of the elderly people. The officials and relevant professionals have also visited many different government departments and bureaus, and we discussed face-in-face the acute problems and the improvements that we can make. We made visits to Beijing and Ningxia and compiled a special report in addressing the aging population. We have 5 special reports in this regard to support the society to contribute to the social service for the elderly people and improving the medical system to help with the elderly people. All these measures, all these reports have proposed feasible measures. In 2017, our committee also have done a survey on the development of the places for the elderly people to live in many different provincial levels. And we heard and deliberated the opinions from many local authorities. After a comprehensive understanding of the social service of for the elderly people, including the medical care for them, pension system, we proposed another series of advices and asked relevant government authorities to make relevant measures to address these problems. After discussing and communicating with many different departments, we have done many other efforts in the enforcement of the law of protecting the rights of the elderly people.
我这个问题呢，想请问吴恒先生，是这样的：2016年呢，全国人大常委会就促进科技成果转化法来进行了这个执法检查，然后在这个执法检查的过程中呢，有没有发现什么问题？另外，这个执法检查的出发点是什么？就是出于什么样的考虑来进行了这次执法检查？而且检查之后，全国人大有没有就一些工作，然后来进一步的推进这个监督这个法律的实施？另外，着眼未来，还想请您谈一下，在今后，您还就是全国人大还将采取哪些措施？来进一步的加强执法改进工作，谢谢。
I'm with Shandong TV. In 2016, the NPC Standing Committee inspected the enforcement of the law on promoting the transformation of scientific and technological achievements. What are the considerations behind this inspection, and what are the problems reviewed? Also, what about the follow-up work of the NPC in this regard? Can you also talk about what else measures will be taken to further advance the law enforcement?
好，谢谢我们。
Thank you for your last question. Innovation is the core for our development. The CPC Central Committee proposed that we should create an innovative country. In general public's view, innovation means technological transfer, and this is a must. Just as you have mentioned, the Standing Committee of NPC have done a big revision of the law of technological transfer. And there are two aspects that are quite popular nowadays. The first is no less than 50%. The second is it's a good proposal for the protection of intangible state-owned assets. The first, the technology transfers profit without further speculation. The profit should be no less than 50%. This is a huge step forward. On the other hand, on the restriction of the protection of intangible state-owned assets, many of the scientific institutes, they adopt subsidies, financial subsidies to carry out technological innovations. And these subsidies are intangible state-owned assets and in terms of technology transfer. There always have been some kind of barriers or obstacles while being transferred to non-state-owned companies. The law on technology transfer has been revised, and within 1 year, the Standing Committee of NPC has summoned up a special group for the inspection of law enforcement to visit Guizhou province to carry out such inspection. Some of you might have such an understanding that law enforcement inspection is usually done after a while after the law enter into force. And we think that it is only after a while that the inspection is worthwhile. It is only then that we understand where the shortcomings are. So you might ask, the investigation was carried out within 1 year after the law came into force. Is the time sufficient? We think that the inspection, of course, should contribute to the enforcement of law, and we should find out the insufficiencies or deficiencies of the law enforcement. This is, on the other hand, a very important promotion of the law to make the general public better understand the principles of the law. The third aspect is that although the law only came into force within 1 year, it has effectively promoted government authorities to promulgate relevant regulations. And we know these concrete rules and regulations has to be made to better implement the laws, articles, and provisions. In fact, the inspection has also done a good job in terms of promoting the law.
Over the 5 years when we were doing the investigation on the law enforcement, one of the highlights is that it has actually promoted the adoption and the publication of some important regulations and laws by the NPC. There are 20 or more of them. This has laid a solid foundation for the final adoption of this law on the transformation of scientific and technological achievement. So that's why we have carried out the investigation in no more than 1 year of the adoption of the law. We think high of the talents, of the knowledge, and of science and technologies. And in those articles of the law, when we are applying them in real terms, it's inevitable that we will encounter some obstacles. I give you one example. After the in-field investigation, we made a report to the State Council, and the State Council has shared with us their opinions. However, we think that it's not yet enough. So the follow-up investigation continues. In the revised version of this law of transformation of the scientific achievement, there are some indicators, for example, no less than 50% of contribution, etc. And some other issues related to the taxation are not clarified yet. And also, the author of the invention, their participation in the share and the taxation. As the author of the invention, they can have a lot of benefit generated from time to time. And there's another way. It's bought once for all, and then it's transformed. In those two different ways, the author would have different circumstances to face with when he's paying the taxes. In current practices, some scientific inventors or the authors of the inventions, they came to us to talk about this issue. Sometimes the taxes that he pays may add up to nearly 50%. It means half of his revenue coming from his invention. Then Mr. Wang has joined us in the in-field investigation. In the Wuhan city, we have interviewed the scientific persons, and we noticed the importance of this issue. Only by solving this problem can we execute the law in real terms. So we have proposed some suggestions, and following up, we will also cooperate with the taxation authorities to show our respect to knowledge, to innovation, and to talents. That is my answer. Thank you. So due to the time limit, this is the end of today's press conference. Thank you for your presence.